Welcome to Voting with Your Tweet, Politics and Social Media. This is there's a few firsts. Firstly, the calibre of our guests. I'm really pleased to have them here. I'll introduce them individually in a couple of minutes. Secondly, we're live streaming, thanks to Netfilms. This is going out, I see, to Timaru at least. I don't know if you can call that live, but it's certainly, we're live in Timaru. Big hi to Timaru. And once again, I'd like to thank the generosity of our sponsor, Genai. Louis, would you like to say a few words? Do you want me to just say what great buggers they are? I can't even see him. Oh, here he is. Come on up.
Thanks, Vaughan. Yes, on behalf of Genai, I'd just like to welcome everyone here tonight. It's always a pleasure to have so many of the smartest people in the city in our place. So welcome, everyone. But I think really the warmest welcome should come to our speakers. Many have travelled from far today, I'm sure, and obviously busier than many of us. So if you can all just put your hands together and welcome our panel. And with that, I'll hand you back over to Vaughan.
Thanks, fella. Okay, so what's going to run tonight? I'll do a bit of my usual self-serving opening blurb. I'll introduce our speakers for those of you who don't know them. We'll cook into a panel discussion which will take probably half an hour, and then we'll open it up to questions both from the floor. We'll have a microphone going around, and Courtney here will be taking questions from the tweet stream and reading those out. As an added incentive, the best question or comment on the hashtag stream tonight, and that's whether you're here or in Timaru, will receive a double pass to see the Auckland Chamber Orchestra, courtesy of the ACO and Alan Johnson Photography. Thank you very much.
Do you want to win?
Second prize is two double passes. That joke's been funny for ages. Anyway, 2008. I was lucky enough to be in the States for their last election. I missed ours, but got the Booby Prize and watched the Obama presidential campaign come to its climax. Facebook was a 4-year-old with just 100 million users worldwide. Twitter was a toddler. Yet both were credited, possibly more than they deserved, but don't let the facts get in the way of a good case study, with helping the Obama campaign mobilise support and ultimately win the election. For a campaign promising change, social media was a perfect match. According to Obama marketing strategist, and I like this guy for some reason, Colin Vaughan, social media allowed Obama to not just talk change, but be change. 3 years on, as we head into our next general election, social media has become much more mainstream. By November, Facebook will have around 2 million users in New Zealand, potentially giving a communication on Facebook a hell of a lot more reach than any TV, newspaper or radio ad could ever achieve. Our political parties are awake to that, of course, and all of them have embraced social media to some degree. More significantly, though, politicians themselves have gotten on the social bandwagon, tweeting, blogging and posting their way onto our laptops and into our pockets in ways previous generations could never have imagined. We are privileged tonight to have 4 of our most social media savvy politicians with us tonight, and before we launch into the discussion, I'd like to introduce them to you. From the left, Tau Henare is Maori Affairs Select Committee Chair, former Minister of Maori Affairs and current Minister of Twitter. He is also one of the few men to have grabbed Kerry Woodham's best bits and lived to tell the tale. Welcome. Jacinda Ardern is an Auckland-based List MP, and I'm kind of making a point of not pushing the fact of which party everyone's from, because it's not really about that tonight, so if we can manage to set that aside, that'd be cool. On Twitter, Jacinda is followed by 2,267 people, making her our most followed panellist tonight. In the real world, she is occasionally followed by a red and white 1956 caravan, which I saw the other day. Nice caravan.
Thank you.
Heather Roy is also a List MP, recently described by Deborah Coddington as the only Liberal in the ACT Party. I had to mention a party there because in context of the quote. Heather is...
It's the only person in ACT.
Oh.
Yeah.
Human.
Heather is one of the most prolific bloggers in Parliament, and you seem to do it 2 or 3 times a day sometimes. Sometimes. That's impressive. Via her Reuters blog, that's Royters, which I'd recommend having a look at. She's also a non-active soldier in the Territorials, which...
Oh, no, I'm active again.
Oh, you're active again. Well, either way, I still outrank you as a retired flight lieutenant in the Air Force. Thank you very much. Nikki Kay is the MP for Auckland Central. Her Facebook page lists her favourite music, and I don't know how long ago you chose this. Can you remember what your favourite music is?
That's right, I'm going to be
It's Eye of the Tiger. And she was last year chided by Next magazine as being too busy running the country to have a manicure. Reality TV fans will also know Nikki as originator of the Thrash the Trash campaign on Facebook, which I hope we'll get a chance to talk about a little later. So once again, thank you very much, our panellists, for coming along. First off, I've got a bit of an opener question. Maybe we just go from left, or physical left, to physical right. Can each of you please briefly sum up why you've chosen to use social media, because not all MPs have, and the biggest thing you get from it?
Me? Yeah, purely and simply because I thought it was fun. I didn't realise how big it was going to get. And my kids just went apeshit because they don't like me doing young people things, you know, and so... but I purely and simply, I did it for fun. It has turned into a bit of a monster, and it takes up a hell of a lot of my time. I love it. I enjoy it.
Heather?
I decided my New Year's resolution at the start of 2009 was to tackle social media because I wasn't involved in it at all, and I thought that they were going to be really important campaigning techniques for this end of this year. So I started with trepidation with Facebook and Twitter. I hated Twitter to start with because trying to squeeze a message, an important message into 140 characters was mission impossible. But once I got used to that, like Toe, discovered it was great fun, and it gives me a great deal of enjoyment now, just engaging with people in a variety of different ways that I never have before. And my kids think I'm mad, really, but it is fun getting one over them.
I don't remember making a conscious decision from a political perspective, I guess. I was on Facebook back when I was living in London before I became a candidate, let alone an MP, so that wasn't a conscious decision for me. The transition was an interesting one. I did have someone say to me once, do you think it's really appropriate for an MP to have that photo of you on the shoulders holding a Colombian flag, drinking from a flask? You know, so I did have to reassess, you know, how much of myself I exposed by social media. And now, even though that photo's gone, I've just exposed it. Twitter was a little bit different for me. I remember when I made the decision to go onto Twitter, actively on Twitter, I started following Obama. And I thought, why am I doing this? You know, the masses are following Obama. And that's when I realised it was because I wanted to see if I could get that little bit of insight into who he was, not just as a politician, but to see whether or not he talked about his life. Turns out he doesn't really, but I decided that that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a little bit more honest, and so I try not to just be the quintessential politician on Twitter. I try to just be me.
But you do promise on your profile, I've seen, not to talk about breakfast, which is it's one of the 3 most important meals of the day, and therefore an important part of your life.
I might be.
So I've caught you in a lie.
Well,
Nikki?
Because, yeah, I can explain.
I think the first thing that made me go on Facebook, I think it was actually just to keep in touch with my mates. And then, but it's now a vital link for not just my friends, my family, but also from a constituency perspective. So to give you an idea, I've had about 7,000 constituency cases, and the number that are coming through on Facebook and Twitter is massive in terms of the increase. So initially it was just to keep in touch with my family and friends, but now it's very much part of my job. Yep. In terms of Twitter though, I initially went on Twitter from a breaking news perspective, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but there have been a number of things that have happened that have been breaking that I think I probably couldn't have done my job as well if I hadn't been on Twitter. And so, yeah.
Yeah, so has anyone else got a perspective on that? I mean, a lot of political leaders and business leaders use social media as a push medium. What are some instances, you know, where, like, as Nikki's describing, you've used it as an information gathering or a listening tool?
I think probably, I mean, the Christchurch earthquake for me has been a prime example, not just as a really fast way of getting information, but the example that comes to mind is I saw someone said I've got 50 cases of water that I need to find a way to get to Christchurch. And one of my Twitter followers then forwarded that message to me. I think someone actually who's in the audience here. And then as a consequence, we managed via someone else on Twitter to actually get that freighted down for free. So it was a really fast network in that instance, faster than I can imagine ever having done it any other way.
So a good way of cutting through the official lines and things.
Mm-hmm.
Either of the two closer to me had any sort of experiences where you've learned things or connected with people in ways that you wouldn't have done without social media?
I think news moves really fast these days, and you take a photo and send it through your phone from anywhere in the world and it's there instantly, whereas once upon a time it took forever. I was in Blenheim recently and I was about to fly to Wellington, and we were stopped on the tarmac. Everybody had to shut their engines down because there was an emergency landing happening, and everybody was all agog about who it was going to be and what it was. It turned out to be the Chilean naval P3 that was at Safe Air being refitted, and one of their engines shut down. So I tweeted while we were inside the plane. And the thing is that the media are desperate for news as soon as it happens. And so before I knew it, I had several news agencies wanting to know who it was, what was happening, and they were all saying, keep us abreast of events. So it's about the speed of getting news out there, I think, often for us. And I mean, that's useful in politics too. Once your policy's announced coming up into elections particularly, that's going to be a really useful tool in terms of getting information out there to people very quickly.
Yep. Nikki?
For me, I mean, ultimately our job is about helping people. So my judgment as to how much I use different types of social media is an equation of how much you can help someone. And one of the examples that I've got, we had with Canterbury, I had Heart Kids contact me and they say they desperately needed food and linen. And they contacted me via Facebook and said, well, we back you to be able to get this contribution quicker than the government in terms of interacting over several days, and they needed it pretty quickly because they had kids coming from Christchurch by Monday. And so I guess that's an example whereby I don't think I could have made that contribution or helped that number of people unless it was via Facebook.
Yep. I mean, so it sounds like one of the big strengths is you can sort of cut through the normal channels and things, which sort of makes me wonder, you all talked about your decision to go into Twitter or go into Facebook as a completely personal decision. And I'm really interested to know how the three parties you guys are from manage this process. I mean, is it managed at all? Are you kept on tight leashes? Is it up to you if you tweet? Are you encouraged to tweet? Are you told to shut the hell up? Maybe you can maybe tell you haven't said anything.
So they keep us on a real tight rein.
Oh, I can tell.
No, look,
He's only allowed to say piss off once a day.
Right.
I have this view that Twitter, because it's 140 characters, you basically got to try and think very, very carefully what you want to say. But Twitter for me is about having. It's like actually having somebody in front of you, and that you're having a debate, an argument, a slag off, a bitch session. Call it what you will. It's actually about, for me, having that engagement with somebody, and I tend to take it personally because it's like the person is in front of me. Where other members of Parliament, I've said this before, ministers won't tweet as openly as you would want them to because they have a bit more responsibility. For me as a backbencher, I get off on engaging the enemy and engaging people that support where I'm from.
Yeah, so, and I see that passion come through all the time, if that's the word for it. But I mean, how do your party whips feel about that? Sort of across the
they must be beside themselves.
No, but across the panel, have any of you had any sort of pushback from the hierarchy for something you've said or?
No, none at all from my party, but I'm the only one who is actively tweeting. Obviously, we've got less MPs than
the fake Dr. Don Brash rocks my tweet stream, actually.
Can you imagine Roger Douglas?
I have done my.
Sorry.
That's I have done my very best to help Roger with Facebook and Twitter. It's
cool.
It's an ongoing project.
So pretty much if you're rank and file or just representing your electorate, you're pretty much given free rein, yeah.
Yes, well, I certainly am. Yeah.
Can I just say I adore Toe because it doesn't matter what I do, whatever he does will never get me in trouble because he is, you know,